Hello, my name is Klaus Krupp, and I'm the manager of the Lauresam Laboratory for Experimental Archaeology, which is part of the UNESCO World Heritage Site Lorsch Abbey. It is a real pleasure for me to tell you today a little bit about our ongoing research projects concerning and circulating around medieval agriculture, and to see whether it's enabling us to learn something from the past for our present day and future challenges in agriculture, and if it may lead us into a more sustainable future. Let me first introduce the site to you in order to make it easier to understand where all this research is conducted. The OpenL Laboratory is a scale 1:1 model of an early medieval manorial site, including houses, equipment inside the houses, meadows, fields, livestock. So basically a holistic approach to showcase how we think based on scientific research. An early medieval site like this, basically around 800 AD, might have looked like. So on one hand it is an educational site, but on the other hand it is also a research facility, a playground for research, to find out more from an experimental archaeological perspective about certain aspects of early medieval life, be it agriculture. This is something I will focus on in the next couple of minutes, but also indoor room climate and settlement archaeology. What I want to give you now is a very brief introduction in our new experimental approach towards a better understanding of, in particular, early medieval agriculture. And one thing which has or can't be stated enough is that it took us almost 4 years to gain enough experience, this is a key word here, to actually do all the agricultural work on a level using animal traction, using the reconstructed tillage implements, to do it on a level which comes at least close to what the people might have done 1,200 years ago. So when we look at this picture here, you basically see a colleague of mine on the left-hand side working a field, or a first field, in 2015, and I think we can all agree that it doesn't look really professional, and the furrows aren't straight at all. But 3 years later, the perspective changes. We had 3 years to get into the mindset of the tasks a medieval farmer would have to cope with, and to get used to the implements, the fine-tuning of the implements. And now in 2018, for example, well, this picture is from, we even were able to be part of the World Plowing Championship, which took place in Germany back then. So experience is key. So most of the aspects I will talk about, and the results especially I will talk about, are not starting before 2018 as a starting point, although we already started with the project in 2015. So using the case study of ridge and furrows, I want to showcase you some interesting strategies we were able to, well, research, which seem to have been common in the early Middle Ages as a risk minimization strategy, which was used to, well, basically diversify and to minimize risks, especially when it comes to weather extremes. We will dig into that a little later. So first of all, maybe a little insight for those of you who don't know ridge and furrows, what that field system includes. Ridges and furrows are basically a mix of ridges and furrows next to each other. They can be more than 1 kilometer long and several hundred meters in width. The individual ridge and furrow bedding, let me put it that way, is usually 10 to 15 meters in width and has the highest point somewhere between 50 centimeters and 1 meter 20. There are two possibilities to create these ridges and as a result also these furrows. One and most important possibility is the use of a moldboard plow. You have an asymmetric plowshare, you have a moldboard, and then you have the way of plowing that you always plow into the center of the field. You have to, after your first furrow, you have to do a really sharp turn, then you turn again to the center of the field, and then after a while and after a couple of years you actually are enabled to create that combination of larger ridges and furrows in between these ridges. This is a process we are following in the OpenAIRE laboratory every year, and therefore have a quite well insight into the creation and also the maintaining of these ridges and furrows. We not only plow the fields, and this also includes draft measurements, for example, with the draft animals, but we also do the seeding, the working in of the seed, and as well as, of course, the harvesting part in the OpenAIRE laboratory, sometimes even using reconstructed early medieval sickles. All of the agricultural tasks at the OpenAIRE lab, also including this ridge and furrow system, is embedded in an overall 3-field crop rotation, which means a combination of summer crops, winter crops, and fallow land. This is something which came into use on a more larger scale in that said early medieval context. What is very important for our work is that we try to document as many factors as possible, set up as many research parameters as possible to document everything that is happening in the ground and above the ground. We have a professional weather station including soil sensors, we do soil analysis, we also yield analysis, we look at the height of the field crops. So basically everything we can to get a, well, the most holistic approach ready for our final result analysis, if that field system had any advantages or disadvantages. So let's come to one or two of these first results we have. And it came to us that the last 3 years or 4 years being years of extremes, first 2 or 3 years being very severe droughts, and the last year, this picture quite visible this year in this case, a very wet year. We had storms, we had lots and lots of water, we had hail, that all of these extreme years enabled us to, well, have first results better visible than we would have had in an average year. And this comes, or it becomes very visible when we take a year of drought. In this case, you look here, you see in this graph the height of the stems of our spelt in 2018-19. You see that this blue line, the height of the stems in the furrows was higher than on the ridges. And this has something to do with a longer availability of water in this dry year in the furrows. And now, a couple of years later, with this wet year, we're just doing this analysis right now in these days, is the turned around result. We have higher and longer stems on the ridges, and we have shorter ones on the furrows, because now it's really wet and the plants in the furrows have more stress than those on the ridges. Also, when you think about the yield itself, it becomes clear that in this case of a drought, this system of this combination of ridges and furrows brings an overall average harvest, no matter what the extreme is. When you look at this year of drought, we have almost double as high yield in the furrows than on the ridges, and we're pretty sure that this year it'll be turned all around. So what's the perspective of this approach? I think it became clear that it is definitely important to reevaluate and to research these field systems from the Middle Ages, and in combination with the knowledge of the broad variety of different field crops they used. Also other field systems, open field systems they used. And seeing the potential of these cultivation methods, we should ask ourselves if in this case it's not really possible to learn something from the past for the present. And we are happy to invite you as fellow researchers, but also the interested public, to visit this project of ours and to help us develop even more and new research questions. And this should be the end of my talk for now, and I'm looking forward for a lively discussion. Thank you for your attention.